Today, I want to show you my tarot haul. So I'm going to start off with my favorite go-to tarot deck, which is the Brady Tarot. So this is a custom box that I made because the original box that it came in is this, which is pretty big and kind of bulky. So I decided to make this box for myself. I got the first edition of the Brady Tarot right off of Kickstarter, and it came with this really cool box, but it's just too big, so I made this little box just for it, and I took some of the artwork that she used to decorate the box. I also like to modify my decks. This deck used to have a white border around it, and I found the size of the deck was just too big for my hands, and I just found that shuffling the deck was very, very difficult. And so I trimmed off the white border, and I really like the deck the way it is now. I really love the cardstock that it came in. This is the first edition, so I don't know how the current editions have the cardstock, but this is the rose petal, and it is just so gorgeous to feel on the hands. I did need to use magician's powder on the cards because they tended to stick. So I put magician's powder on it, and now they shuffle like a dream. They just feel so good in the hands. It just feels like such a special deck. I also edge my cards, so I decided to go with a black edge to make it kind of a uniformed color around from the border and the edge. So let's just pick a couple cards at random and see how this deck wants to represent itself on this video. So the first thing that it wants to tell you is the Empress. I love her artwork. So these were all done with carving and then printing and then painting on the prints. How else does the deck want to represent itself for the next card? The Lovers. So this deck is all about North American animals, and I find that this deck reads very, very well, very, very straightforward. So that's why this is my go-to deck when I'm, because I have other more complicated decks that kind of need a little bit more brain power, but I find that this deck just kind of speaks to me just very bluntly and makes it just so much more easy to read. Rivalry. So this one has feathers for the suit of fires, for the suit of wands, and it has let's see, it has feathers for fire, wands, has roots for earth or pentacles, coins. It has arrows for air, swords, and it has horns for water, chalices or cups. What else? Okay, what's the last thing that this deck wants to say? Oh, it's withdrawing. The four of arrows. That's why I feel this deck is just very blunt and very straightforward. So we'll close off the introduction to the Brady Tarot. Hope you guys will get a copy because it is definitely one of my favorite decks. My next deck is going to be my first deck that I ever got. Again, I made this box. The design has nothing to do with the deck itself. This was just a nice design that I found online, and then I edited it so that it would fit on a box format. I did take some quotes that the deck liked and put it on the box. This deck I also modified. And the reason why I made a box for this one is that this deck doesn't actually come with a box. It has just a very large box that it comes in. So there isn't like a travel box for this deck. So it really needed its own box. So I trimmed this deck as well. This used to have a white border, and I trimmed off the white border, and it's definitely a lot easier to manage. Let's see how this deck wants to first represent itself. The 10 of Stones, home. So I wrote in these titles on the bottom when I modified the deck. And so I wrote the number and then a symbol for what suit it was. So I wrote a circle for stones. And then the title. So of course on the original cards, the title looks a lot better. And then this is the card back. So this was my very first deck. I really wanted a nature deck. I feel that nature really communicates to me. Insecurity. 7 of Arrows. So this one has bows for fire, or the suit of wands. And then it has arrows for air, the suit of swords. And then it has vessels for water, the suit of cups, chalices. And then it has stones, earth, the suit of pentacles or coins. This deck really goes into a lot of detail. It has a connection with the year. So the major arcana has also representation with the time of year. So we can say that we're in the time of the wanderer. What does that mean? At the beginning of the year, being in the time of the wanderer, such like that. So I really enjoyed studying how they connected this deck to the Wheel of the Year. Feeling. All right. And now to finish off my top 3 decks, we have the Spirit Keeper's Tarot by Benebell Wen. She is my favorite tarot author and esoteric teacher. And this is her most recent publication of the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, which is Revelation. So there are 3 different versions. There's version I call 0, and that is her very first edition of Spirit Keepers Tarot. So it was very first approach to how to do the art, and it's all just black and white line work. And she did a limited edition for that one, just 100 copies. And then she decided to produce another limited edition. This one was the Vitruvian edition. So I call that one version 1. And this one is again a monochromatic palette. It's in sepia tones. And then she decided to continue working on this deck and continue its evolution. And she then released the Revelation edition. And in that one, she learned how to do digital painting. And so she went back into each card, and now she colored them, and she reworked significantly many of the cards. And she released the Revelation edition twice. And in the second one of the Revelation edition, she did some tweaks on a couple of the cards, and then she also added another layer of discussion about the deck. She added the orders. So then if you got a deck from her, it would be slotted into one of the 8 orders. This is the second print. This is the first print. So they're a little different. And so in the second print, my deck was slotted into the order of the philosophers. I guess kind of fits. As you'll find out with this channel that I have a lot of ideas. Let's start with the second edition of the Revelation deck. How does this deck want to be represented on video right now? It is the Champion. So Benebell has extensive blog posts discussing the journey about making this deck and how much work she put into trying to get the colors just right. The Defector. So I really like this deck. The Revelation edition is really a journey into different cultures around the world. Like this one, for example. This is talking about, and you really need to get her book that accompanies this so that you can learn all about these different cultures. Every court card dives in deep into a specific culture, into a specific type of person within that culture. But I really like tarot to learn about different cultures. I see tarot as 78 slices of life, and every deck has a different perspective on those slices of life. And so I really like the cultural decks that kind of have this idea of how that and is teaching the reader about how that culture sees that aspect of life. Okay, so that was the second edition of Revelation. So you can see the different card backs. So this is the second edition of Revelation, and this is the first edition of Revelation. Oh, another thing that's really interesting is that she has multiple Fool cards. P0 cards. She has 3. My other one is tucked into the deck, so I don't know where it is right at this moment. But the idea is that you use the one that kind of represents you. And so there's the initiate, there's the seeker, which is the one that I'm using, and then there's the keeper. And the keeper and the initiate is like you're first getting to know the deck, you're first getting to know tarot. The seeker is kind of the intermediate level. You kind of have a handle on things, but you know that there's more to do. And the keeper is the one who is the expert rank of really understanding everything. So the magus. The quester. The idea is, this is Spirit Keeper's Tarot. The idea is that each one of these cards embodies a spirit. And so the discussion and learning about these cards is learning what spirit embodies this card and what it is and what does it do, what does it want, what are its goals. The joined one. All right, let me show you the Vitruvian edition. I do not have the first edition. I did not find out about the deck until after it was already sold out. So this is the Vitruvian edition. You can see it's a little bit different. This is the Seeker card. So this is just a sepia tone deck. Ah, my favorite card, Archangel of Mystery. So this would be King of Orbs. Orbs is Earth, Coins, Pentacles. The Mason. So the Vitruvian edition does go into different cultures, but not as deeply as the Revelation edition does. Revelation edition really seemed to be built around the idea of cultural exploration, while Vitruvian was kind of the beginning of the cultural exploration. Okay, so those are my top decks that I like to use. These are my go-tos. The next deck is one that's a little different. It's called the Spread Machine. And this one is not a traditional tarot deck. It's used to sort of complement tarot decks. And so I like to use it as a means to dial in on what I really should be focusing on with a card. So this deck is just words. And they're not in the order of tarot. They are in the author's own idea of grouping the different types. Like they have cards about light work, about expansion, seeker, processing, focus areas, success. So she has these general categories, and then she has cards within those categories. And so with Spread Machine, you can use it to create a spread. Like you could say, what should I be asking myself right now? And so let's say, what should I ask myself right now? And the card could say, confront. What should I be confronting? Okay. Then let's grab a card from one of the other decks. And I could say that I should be confronting the Ebony Shield, which is the Queen of Orbs, Queen of Earth. How should I confront that? And then what I use it for the most is what aspect of this card should I be thinking about? Because each card can have so many different ranges to think about. And so what Spread Machine does for me is it helps me to narrow down exactly what part I should be thinking of. And so I could say, I should confront the Ebony Shield. What does this really mean? And so then I can pull another random card. And we have Align. To connect deeply, to return to proper course, to live in your truths. How do I confront? I can confront my alignment with the Ebony Shield. That I should try to be more grounded. See, now I've narrowed my focus down to alignment. How do I align myself? How do I confront my alignment? And then how can the Ebony Shield help me with that alignment? So I use this a lot as part of my normal three card weekly spread. I'll use these to help me to focus down exactly how I should be thinking about it. So yeah, for my weekly spread, I like to use Spirit Keepers Tarot and the Spread Machine together. All right. How about if I show you something that I made? This is also not a tarot deck. This is an oracle deck. And I made this container for it because it also came in a big box. So there was no specific container for it. So I made this for it to kind of match its theme. It is a Native American deck. And I also trimmed this deck. So it used to have a border, a white border, and I trimmed it. And I also edged it. Medicine wheel. A great mystery. This was truly my first deck that I ever got. I got this when I was in middle school, so in the early 90s. And this one is definitely, it's very cultural based on Native Native American cultures. And so it really does require a lot more study from me because I'm not as familiar with the culture. So I end up not really using this deck because I really have to study it more. But I really cherish it. It's the oldest deck I have. It's my very first one, and so I made this nice container for it. All right, my other go-to deck. Usually when I'm reading for other people, I will use the Light Seeker's Tarot. Generally when I read for other people, I'll either use this deck or I'll use the Brady Tarot, the one I showed you first. This one has a tendency to speak more bluntly to people. It just speaks to people. People have a better, easier way of understanding it themselves without needing. They can have an easier grasp of what the card means without me having to interpret it for them. While with all the other decks, generally I have to explain what the card means. And so this is just more straightforward. I edged this deck. This one I did a little bit extra. I decided to do a gradient. These are the card backs. Eight of Wands. I didn't trim these. This is how this deck came out. Another deck I have is the Cosma Visions Oracle. This is by the same guy who did Prisma Visions. And this one is talking about, so this one's just the major arcana, and it's very large cards, very large cards. And they have the meaning of the card on the back. I also edged these cards. And with these cards, I tend to use them as an altar card. You can see right here. I'll pick one card at random and I'll put it on my altar for a while. This is 9. This is key 3. This is key 11. I'll move next into the other decks from the same author. So this, I believe, is his first deck. the Light Visions Tarot. And I got these mini versions of his decks. I really wanted small travel tins, a deck and a tin. And I have the Rider-Waite-Smith in a tin, but I don't really like reading with a Rider-Waite-Smith. It doesn't really speak to me. So once he put these out, I was like, okay, I need to have these. So I couldn't choose which one, so I got all three. So this is Light Visions. Here's the card back. And this is a monochromatic deck. His artwork is pretty phenomenal. One of the selling points of his art is that the minor arcana all work together seamlessly. So if you lined up the whole minor arcana, the entire suit of the minor arcana in order, you'll see that it's one painting that goes across all the cards. And so that's why the minor arcana cards are borderless, so that it will line up with its neighbor. And then the major arcana cards are bordered. Okay, let's move on to his next deck, which is Prisma Visions. So this one has a silver edging back. This is also from the author's artwork. So this one is in full color. I absolutely adored this deck. I dreamed of having it for years, absolutely years. And finally, one day, I was ready to pamper myself. So excited. And I got the deck. I opened it up. And the deck didn't speak to me. I don't know why. This deck is so gorgeous. It's so beautiful. I wanted to work with this deck so badly. But for some reason, the deck didn't speak to me. So I ended up giving it away. But then once the author released these mini versions, I was like, okay, I'll get a mini one. You know, I think it could be good for travel. And then his other deck is Cosma Visions, which is about the afterlife. And so this was the Cosma Visions, just the major arcana. And then he also has a full tarot deck of Cosmic Visions. artwork on this is pretty talented. He has also released another deck. This is in a different vein. He actually has many decks. And this is the Green Glyphs Tarot. So the reason why I got this deck was because it's color coded. There's the back. So it's a limited palette, and the quantity of the different colors symbolizes how much that card means that color. And I wish I could remember at the top of my head. But I thought that this would be a great way to study tarot by seeing visually some meanings behind the card. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to studying this deck. I just got it last summer, so I haven't even had it a year yet. Next is a very classic deck. This is Crowley's deck. And I made this box for it. I love this box. I also trimmed this deck. So it used to have a white border. And then I trimmed it. I really like the cardstock on this deck too. It feels very good. It shuffles really, really good. I wish I could use this deck more, but it requires more study from me. So I don't find that I read it very easily. But studying this deck is really valuable for a tarot enthusiast. And then also it's a pips deck, so, which is disappointing. But this deck was designed in the days before computers. These are all actual paintings. And they spent years working on this. I really like how this box turned out. This one came out nice. All right. Are there any other decks that I should show you? I think I'll just quickly go through my other decks. These are decks that I don't really use. I've gotten them because I want to study them. So the one that I really want to study is the Seams deck, the Southeast Asian Myths deck. myths and stories. And this deck is, so this deck is all about Southeast Asian culture. And like I said, I like to use tarot to learn about other cultures. And so each one is telling a myth or story that's rooted in a specific culture in Southeast Asia. And so I felt that this was a phenomenal way for me to learn more about the culture there. Unfortunately, I haven't got to studying it yet. There's so much to study. There's so many decks. There's so much to study. I need to show you Benebell's books so you'll understand why I'm still on just studying Spirit Keepers Tarot. I got the Blood Moon Tarot. I got this from her Kickstarter. I just really liked her artwork. And so I really looking forward to this. This is the box that came with it. I did not make this box. This box came with it, and I'm so impressed with all the work she put into this. She was a bit delayed working on this. I think she was a couple years late in delivering, but I wanted this deck so badly, and so I would like keep putting down all the naysayers and be like, no, be supportive. Be supportive of her. I want her to finish the deck, and she's not going to finish it if you guys keep being mean to her. I want her to finish it. Here's the back. She's just has such an original vision for her art. It's really phenomenal. I got the Corrupted Tarot. I got this also to try to further my studies in tarot, because what it is it's effectively the reverse of all the cards. So the cards are supposed to be as if their upright form was the reverse form. So it's kind of like the opposite or the extreme or the bad in the card. And I felt that this would be a really good way to study the cards. So here's the back. Yeah, I choose my decks primarily on what will help me to understand tarot better, or to understand a culture better. So this particular deck I got to try to help me understand tarot better. And so each, in both the Seems Tarot and Corrupted Tarot, they are both an ensemble of artists. Each card is done by a different artist. Let me show you Benebell's books. This is her first book, Glyphs Tarot. This is how I discovered her. Her approach here, like secular tarot, really appealed to me. I love tabbing up my books so that I can easily get to whatever card I want. You know, if it's a wands or cups or swords or Pentacles. I can quickly get to it. And I highlight them up like crazy. So this is a gigantic book. I have not finished going through it. She writes faster than I can study. Then there is the Vitruvian edition of her Spirit Keepers Tarot. And this book is different enough that I still reference this book, even though there's a new book for the Revelation edition. I still reference this book. And it's also highlighted up the wazoo. It's very helpful, so I can quickly remember the whole entry because she writes so much. And then she released another book for the Revelation edition, still just as meaty. And oh, it just takes so long to go through them all. This takes so long. And so that is why I have not finished studying all of the other decks that I have. I am still focusing on Spirit Keepers Tarot for my studies, and that's going to take a long time. So I've significantly slowed down my tarot card purchasing. I'm hoping that I don't look around Kickstarter as much as I used to because I'm like, I still have all of this to study and go through. All right. I hope that you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed sharing. I'd love to hear what you liked, what you didn't like. What are your favorite decks? I totally want to hear it. Even though I don't necessarily want to get another deck, if you can tell me one that teaches me about another culture, I'll probably get it. So let me know if you know any. So thank you for watching. Bye-bye.